I'm not gonna lose. This is what I came here to do. I walk that wire and I take that step. Won't look down, got no regrets. Won't look down, got no regrets. I was made for this. I was made for this. Born in the wild, formed in the fire, built for the battle. Oh, I was made for this. I was made for this. Mind over matter, silence the doubters. I had the power. Oh, I was made for this. All my bones are dislocated, I just keep on wandering along. Got this falling thorn since then I have been everything you want. Everything you don't bring it, everyone we try to master. Close the gate and buckle up, my mental need is everything we want.
And we are live. How you doing, everybody? Thank you for joining me on another episode of Common Sense with Chief Culp. Appreciate you guys being here. That commercial you just saw is from our sponsor, MinutemenCoffee.com. If you buy 2 pounds or more and enter the promo code CULP, C-U-L-P, all capital letters, you get 15% off your order. So check out MinutemenCoffee.com, made right here in Washington State. So today, I was over at the Grant County Fair. I could not believe how many people are at the Grant County Fair. It was incredible for a Tuesday night. The parking lot, I could hardly find a place to park. Chris has been manning the booth over there all day, and I'll be in there tomorrow as well. I'll be in and out, visiting with folks. The response is absolutely incredible. So I appreciate that. Everybody that showed up, it's phenomenal. So there's a lot going on in this state and in this country, right? I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's a lot of people protesting the mandates coming from our dictator in Olympia, and a lot of parents out protesting, a lot of state workers, a lot of our first responders and people in the medical profession. And I like to see that. That's citizen activism, right? That's we the people standing up for our rights. We the people are in charge. If we just realize that, if we stand together, stand up together, we are in charge. Public servants are not in charge of our individual lives. So we need to remember that. I have a special guest tonight. You may have seen him on national TV. He's been getting around the country and around this state and standing up for citizens' rights, looking into the 2020 election, and taking citizens' testimony. Because if we can't trust our elections, as some people do, I guess, but if we don't feel comfortable with our elections, if we can't trust our voting system, then we need to do something about it. And I'm going to bring him on right now, Representative Robert Sutherland. Welcome, Robert. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Hey, good seeing you, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
So for the people that aren't that familiar with you, can you just give everybody a little bit of background about you, who you are, where you come from?
Yeah. Well, I was in the Air Force years ago. got out of the Air Force. I received my degree, my biochemistry degree from Gonzaga University in Spokane. I spent my career out here on the West Side, researching DNA, developing cancer therapies. Retired in 2009 and went to my first political meeting, and I think it was March of 2009. I knew the state was in trouble. I knew things weren't going right. I got involved in politics, on a low entry level way, if you will, to see where I could help the party, help candidates. I realized right around then that I was actually part of the problem. I was that typical guy that I don't like politicians. I don't trust them. They lie, they cheat, they steal. You can't rely on them. So why would I participate in their system? Yeah, but that I realized I was part of the problem by not participating in the system. So I got involved in politics, ran for office, first race in 2014 for U.S. Congress. And I didn't have any grand expectations of winning that, going up against an incumbent, richest member, one of the richest members in Congress. Did phenomenal when I expected to do nothing. I actually made national news by winning the primary against a very well-known rich Republican. I won it for 3 days until I slowly lost that. Looking back and knowing what we know now, it's you actually wonder if I won that or not. But anyway, a couple of years later, I got myself elected in 2018 as a state representative in the 39th district. That's Monroe up to Cedro-Woolley. I've served 3 sessions now. My first re-election was in November of 2020, won that. And so I'm a state rep for another 2 years. So this year and next year, and then I'll have to defend the seat again.
Awesome. I've traveled around the country, or the state, the country within Washington, right? Meeting with voters and citizens for the last couple of years, and, continuing it now, running for Congress. I've met so many people, especially this year, that are doing exactly that. They're stepping up. They weren't involved in politics before, but they see what's going on, and they see that just regular citizens can make a difference, can stand up and run for office. And there's so many, it's really motivational for me, to see so many people standing up now, running for city council, running for county commissioner, state legislature, stuff like that. It's really good.
I don't want to take undue credit by no means, but I'd like to think that I've played a part, at least out here. People saw what I did. I ran in 2014, lost, 2015, lost, 2016, lost, 2017, lost. I was the guy going out there hammering away with a microphone, talking about the freedoms in Washington State, Washingtonians, our Constitution, and that they're going away. And the citizens in this area saw what I was doing. And when I ran twice in the first congressional race, that's 4 counties. The 39th is just a small subset in that. So when I looked at the data in the 39th, the entire time, my numbers were off the charts. I just couldn't get King County to go along with me, assuming or hoping that was a fair portion of the election. But I was that average guy that never ran, that I never wanted to run. My God, I want you guys to do it while I go take care of my property, raise my kids, go fishing, hunting every now and again.
Right.
I'm a scientist. I don't want to go down there Olympia with you guys. I don't want to go to Washington, D.C. I never did want to do that. But someone has to do it. So I jumped in the fray and I just started swinging away, if you will. And the voters love someone. They love the average person. It's not that they love me. They love someone like me that just comes out of nowhere. You're honest, you're decent, believe in God, family, country, the whole thing. We're lacking that in this country and in the state, frankly. Right.
Yeah. We need less used car salesmen. No offense to any used car salesman out there, but we need less of that mentality and more just regular working hard, playing hard Americans to run for office and stand up. And I was the same way. I never wanted to be in politics, never dreamed that I would ever be in politics, but just was kind of thrust into it. And it's like, you know what? There's a fight in front of us, so let's go. That was my mentality. And it's really great to see people doing that all over the state.
You were in law enforcement. I was in the science community. We need teachers. We need moms and dads, firefighters. We need the average, the normal, decent person that they don't have a career path in politics. Maybe they've never participated, but they're good, decent, honest people. We need people like that to help take back our country and our state and our county, our communities. It's time. We have to get
Absolutely.
involved.
Absolutely. And, even if somebody doesn't want to run for office, that support a candidate that you can get behind, get behind that candidate and support them any way you can, volunteering, donating, spending your time, going out and putting up signs or whatever needs to be done. And there's also precinct committee officer positions that are open all over this state with the Republican Party. And those need to be filled, and the county chairs can appoint people to that. So if you're out there listening and you want to be involved, but you don't want to run for office, precinct committee officers are badly needed in this state. So contact your county chair, Republican Party county chair, email them, call them, and see if there's an opening in your area. And that is a huge way to help out.
And Lauren, you touched on it. I was that guy. I didn't want to run for office. I just wanted to be a PCO. I want to help the candidate. I did so much behind the scenes. Half the time the candidate didn't even know I was doing it, mailing out their literature. And I just like being left alone. No one knows who I am. I can help. I can send in a little money. I can put in a little time. It came a point where for the U.S. congressional race, I'm looking at the candidates. I'm going, I don't want any of them to represent me. They don't hold my values. They don't hold the values of anyone I know.
Right.
Unfortunately, the Republican candidate was so similar to the Democrat candidate, and that's a common critique of our party, that a lot of people can't even tell the difference anymore. That's what motivated me. I ran out of candidates to like and support in a race, so I jumped in the race.
And that's what we got to do. If not us, then who, right? And everybody should be asking themselves that. Have to be involved, have to be active, because politics is not a spectator sport. We know that. So, Robert, tell everybody a little bit about what you've been doing. I mean, I follow you pretty closely. We've met and talked quite a little bit, and I've seen you on national TV here lately. You tell everybody what you've been up to?
It's been a whirlwind. We got out of session late April, so I spent a little time splitting wood and getting ready, to get my wood shed all filled up for the coming fall and all that, and almost immediately got involved with voter integrity issues. And me and Representative Young, we and a few others, we went down to Maricopa County in Arizona, and we were shown a wonderful time by Senator Wendy Rogers, Representative Mark Fincham, and Senator Sonny Borelli. We met with the Cyber Ninjas, Cyber Ninjas, their security people. Doug Larson, the CEO. It's Doug Larson, I believe. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry. He sat down with us for close to an hour, giving us a briefing on who they are, who makes up their personnel, their qualifications, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then they gave us a tour of the audit facility. We went around every station, and they kind of explained what each station was doing and how they were operating, and if there was any discrepancies and counts or anything, how they handled that to make sure that when they were done, they're going to have an accurate count. So we came home, and I was very impressed with the entire setup. That company had never done an audit before, and they're being criticized for that. But I tell you what, just because you haven't done anything before, just because I haven't driven a Jeep before, doesn't mean I can't drive a Jeep, okay? Because I drive other vehicles. So they're into cybersecurity and forensic analysis, and that's what kind of technology and skill sets that we need for doing an audit. So I came back very impressed. I won't say it lit the fire in me because it was already in me, but it gave me a little bit of courage and strength to, maybe we can do something here. There just didn't seem to be a big call. Certainly not by the press, not by the Democrats. A number of Republicans. It's not their thing, it seems. But it's one of the most important things if we don't trust our election system. And the point is, it's not whether I trust it or not, or you, Lauren. It's the people that are voting and paying the taxes and paying for the government's, all the wages. They absolutely have grave concerns about our system. So that just put me down a pathway of doing something about it. I called for public hearings here in Washington State, and we had actually in Snohomish County. And boy, I've never done anything like that before. Lauren, I've never had a fundraising event. I fear crowds almost. I don't like that. It's not who I am. I like being that guy at the end of the cul-de-sac and no one knows I'm there.
I know the feeling.
Putting on any kind of a big event is just not my thing. But lo and behold, I called for a public hearing, and we spent 2.5, 3 weeks, very short time. We put that together, and we had our public hearing 2 days ago, Sunday. We had a venue down in Snohomish, the house church, holds about 600 people. And I talked to the pastor there, and I go, how many people do you think we have here? It was standing room only. There's people everywhere. Seats are filled, standing room only. He goes, Robert, we've got 600-700 people. And he goes, and I have turned away, my crew has turned away at least that many. He goes, There's cars lined up down the streets. There's parking. It's gone. I mean, this is off the charts. He goes, I've never seen anything like this. And he does a lot of events, at his church with Sheriff Mack and Chris Ann Hall and some other. He has big events at his church. He has a film crew, the whole bit. He goes, he had to shut down registration. He goes, I've never seen anything like this. And so we were jam packed, and we unfortunately had to turn so many. If we'd have known that, maybe we could have got a bigger facility. There was a risk of, having 500 or 600, 700 people, and maybe 200 people show up, and then it looks like you're empty, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I guess that's that fear factor in me that no one's going to want to come see anything I do. But we packed the house. We packed the house. There's
definitely concern. I mean, everywhere I go, whether it's in a campaign event or anything else, when people see me, that's the number one thing on voters' mind right now is election integrity. And I don't understand why some of these politicians are against audits or looking into what went on. That just doesn't make good sense to me. There's companies, have audits all the time to make sure their books are right. And to me, it just makes good sense to audit once in a while, especially when there's so many people all across the state, all across this country that feel like there's something off, right? And so I applaud you for doing that. I watched the Sunday event that you had, and there were a lot of people in there and a lot of good information.
When I actually forgot that I was also in South Dakota, Sioux Falls. We went to the Mike Lindell event, the Cyber Symposium. Spent 3 days there, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday last week. And some of the speakers and people that were testifying and the data that they had and were sharing with us were off the charts. It was phenomenal. I remember after one testimony, listening to some data analysis, I kind of walked off. I was going upstairs because we're constantly doing TV interviews and radio interviews and things. So I was headed upstairs to do one of those. And coming down the stairs was Mark Fincham, the Arizona state representative that I had met down in Arizona. And he looks at me and says, he's kind of looking, he's going, what do you think, Robert? What do you think about this event? And I had tears in my eyes. I go, Mark, it's worse than I ever thought.
Are we back? I think we cut out there for a minute. At least my side did.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yep. No, I think we're live now again.
Okay. So Mark Fincham coming down the stairs asked me what I thought of the event. And with tears in my eyes, I go, Mark, I knew things were wrong and I knew something wasn't right. I had no idea of the level of what appears to be corruption in our election system nationwide. Some of the data we saw, I was shaken, and that's knowing something's wrong, but I didn't know the level.
Right.
And I was shaken by it, truly. We've got work on our hands. And so I enjoyed 3 days there and learned a ton, came back, had our public hearing on Sunday. It's been a whirlwind of events circling around election integrity for me since
I can imagine.
Leaving session. And believe me, I went to South Dakota. The last thing on my mind was that I was going to get a microphone and speak. I was not. I was going to be just a participant, a spectator, if you will, in the audience.
And you turned out to be a participant, right?
Well, they were being hacked. There were problems, and every now and again, they made a decision. We'll let the state reps come up and introduce themselves. So we got up on stage and we had a mic for like 2 minutes or whatever it was. So no speeches. It's just spur of the moment. You get up there, hey, you say who you are, what you're doing, and I guess I got a little, fired up, emotional. I don't know. and that made some waves. It made some news, and it kind of went around. I don't know if it was viral or anything, but it put me on the radar.
Right.
The next day, or maybe 2 days later, they had all the state reps line up in front of the stage, and they just wanted to show the cameras how many state reps were there. And basically they had us come on up, and we just stood up there. And then the lady that had the microphone, she goes, well, let me pass the mic down the line and let them say their names and what district they're from, right? Don't ever give a politician a microphone.
Not without a string up to it, right?
The first person hey, I'm Jane Smith from whatever. And then they go, I just want to thank Mike Lindale for the event and this, that, and the other. And they kind of gave their name, but they added to it. And the next person added a little bit more than that. And then and I was like the fourth one. And I go, I guess it's speech time.
It's a free for all.
So they're not holding them to just giving our names. So, I told them who I was. And again, we had a nice audience there. And so I went off a little bit. What they're doing to our kids are ruining our kids' future. And I'm standing up. Are you going to back us? And, I kind of went on one of my little rants, if you will. Standing ovation, fired them up. And I don't even remember what show that was now. They took that clip of mine. They zoomed into my face. Don't ask me why you do that. But they zoomed in and they took that fiery speech of mine. And that did go viral. I mean, they sent that everywhere. That millions of views. And my phone and email.
Things like that come from the heart. That are just how a person truly feels, not rehearsed, not a speech, just something that comes from the heart. Those are the best viral moments.
Yeah, but believe me, it was not planned. It's just we were there in the moment. The emotion was there with regard to what we were learning. We're fired up. We're mad. We're glad. We're glad. We're all networking. It's a nice environment, but to learn the level of what appears to be a tremendous corruption. I don't want to say it's proven or anything like that, because it's not proven until we see the ballots, and they're not letting us. They're not wanting to let us do that. But the evidence that was presented there was significant to me, and I know a thing or two about evidence. I'm a scientist. That's all I did was look at data and statistics, and areas under curves for molecules and our chemical, our drug that we were developing. So I know a thing or two about numbers and stats and correlation coefficients and things like that. And so these people had done their homework. They were presenting their data. They're competent, educated, hardworking Americans with good hearts. They weren't making a dime. The ones, at least, I don't know if anyone made any money, but the ones I spoke to weren't. Mm-hmm. And I came home from that event going, wow, it's worse than I thought. And we need to do something about it. And maybe I can do something here at home in Washington.
Well, you mentioned science, you're a scientist. And science is kind of like police work, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist. But you follow the evidence, right?
Yes.
When you're investigating anything.
No, you're absolutely right. Investigative work. There was a point, in my early career, I was in the lab, I was doing a lot of the work, and then later on I'm in an office with a computer, and I'm overseeing the same work that's being done by other companies that we farmed out. We hired to do the stability studies. And so I would get packets of information from those assays that they performed, the work that they performed. And it was my responsibility to go through them and just kind of make sure that the work was done correctly. We have to deal with the FDA on a daily basis. So if the data is not performed right, you could lose years of work, millions and millions of dollars. So it was my responsibility to double check the science of the work. So it's just like an investigation, like in law enforcement. Now, I used to look at the data. It's a ream of data. I mean, stacks high. If you can't just literally look at every piece of data. It's just overwhelming. But to look for red flags, to look for anomalies in that data is what I used to do. And I won't bore you with the details of that, but boy, I used to have everyone in that company look at me and say, how did you find that? It's buried. I mean, buried down in the data. How'd you find that? I go, well, it's an anomaly. It's different than the last 3 sets of data we did on that particular lot of drug. It's different. So I stopped and I looked at that one because it was different. And then I found the data. Now I can dive deep into it, and I would find what went wrong. And so even people within the the company were just, my God, how do you? It's just numbers buried. How do you find that? It's an anomaly. And lo and behold, what are we finding in our election systems and our voting ballots? We're finding a bunch of anomalies. And so the specialists in South Dakota, the tech analysts, they dove into it. I didn't. They did, and they presented their finding, and it's amazing. So it is exactly like law enforcement going out. You see a broken window, shattered glass, and some items of a store maybe scattered around. That's not proof of a crime, right? I mean,
Right.
maybe a meteor came and hit the window, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's evidence.
It's just evidence.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's evidence. And so there's enough evidence right there visually. You say, well, I don't know if a crime's been committed, but maybe I ought to go take a look and talk to some people and handle it. Investigate. Our investigation on voter integrity will be, okay, we see the anomalies. We see the evidence of something's wrong with our votes in the count. Something's wrong. So that's the evidence. And it was presented in South Dakota, and it was presented at my event Sunday. We had Seth Keshel come out, and he gave his analysis and some others. We have mountains of evidence. We don't have proof. We're not going to say that absolute, this is fraud. We have evidence that something's wrong. Maybe we should investigate. And our investigation won't be a police investigation. It'll be an audit of the ballots, the envelopes, and the system. There'll be a full forensic audit from the counting machines and the ballots, the envelopes, and everything having to do with the election. It'll be done by an independent, qualified third party, because there's just people that, sometimes we don't trust the police to investigate their own, right? So there's going to be those who are not going to trust the government to investigate their own voting systems. So that's our investigation. And only after the investigation can we determine if maybe a crime has been committed, right? Maybe here's the evidence, we investigated it, we put the pieces together, and our conclusion would then be, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the conclusion would be. I'm a scientist. I don't know, but we have to be able to look, to investigate, and theoretically our conclusion might be there's something wrong here, and now we're showing it wrong. And so if any crime were committed,
and if there's nothing wrong, like some people say there's nothing wrong, then there's nothing wrong. We restore confidence in the voters. That's what it's all about. There's nothing showing that there's enough of this even going on to overturn any elections. It's just, like you said, seeing that there's something wrong here, there's an anomaly, there's some evidence, and following the trail to see if there is anything more. I don't know how anybody could be against doing that. It just restores confidence in the voters.
The federal law says, it mandates that states keep the records, the ballots and envelopes and all that, all their electronic data for 22 months. Why would you dictate or mandate that? So that if something is suspicious or goes wrong, you can take a look at it and find out what was the problem, and then make any corrections you need to correct. And I'm going to correct something you just said, because I'm learning daily, and I would have agreed with you up until about 2 days ago. When you say we don't have anything, there's no evidence that it would affect any races. Now we do. Up in Skagit, now we do. So I don't want to take undue credit. I'm not knocking on any doors. I'm hanging around those that are. We've got roughly 1,000 affidavits, and when you get that many, that affects races. One race up here, LD 10, I think it was, Bill Brook, and I forget the Democrat. He lost by 700 votes. So we are now past the delta, if you will, that difference between the election result, what would be a victory or a defeat. We're past that delta. We now have sufficient. We're not saying it's not proof.
Right.
We won't know till we look at the ballots, but we have enough evidence to show that if this all turns out to be true after we investigate, that would change this race. And so there are a couple of races that are actually the data being collected is surpassing the delta of those margins. So they can no longer say, well, there might be a few ballots here, a few, might be an individual over here voted 12. No. 1,000 affidavits, and we're still knocking on doors. We're still gathering. And that's just a small sampling. That's not statewide. That's one county, one segment, one district. So if it's that much that they found in that district. Well, what is it across the state
Right.
when you magnify it?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's why I had you on here so that we can get this information out to the public. That's excellent. I did not know that before.
Brand new information. The data's coming in daily. So we're not backing down. We're knocking on doors. Mine was an online. I had people submit their affidavits. I didn't have the time or the crew or the money or anything to spend the next 6 months knocking on doors. That's the proper way to do it, knocking on doors. Going up there, talking to that person that lives there. And, we've got the data that shows, well, my God, you haven't voted in 20 years, but you voted in this election. Knock on the door, say, would you mind telling us if you voted in this election? And they're like, no, I haven't voted. Like, would you mind filling out? Because right here, it says that you voted. And they're like, yeah, I'll fill out an affidavit, a sworn signed statement saying I didn't vote in 2020, but their ballot was turned in under their name.
Wow. I've heard about a lot of that.
Just under 1,000 of stories like that in Skagit, and growing. I've heard of other people doing the same in other counties. I'm not in close contact with them. I don't know what they're finding. Similar results, I don't know. But it's being conducted, and we are finding things. This is evidence being collected. Evidence of a crime, by the way. Yes.
So let me ask you, because I get asked this a lot, what do we do now? What should we be doing? The citizens asking that all the time. How do you answer? I'm sure you get asked the same thing.
Yeah, and we get asked that, from the moment you run, and I remember being asked that even before I was elected. It's so hard. What can you do specifically? Well, I don't know. I need money. So if you're rich, I could use a donation, right, to help me buy my materials. If you're physically fit, I could use help putting campaign signs up. There's a bunch of things in a campaign that, frankly, I'm getting a little old to be pounding stakes in the ground. I mean, I enjoy it, but it's in the middle of summer, 85 degrees, so you can use help. People want to know how they can help, and you list ways they can help. Next steps, well, to answer your question, how can they help right now? Doug Rowstone in Snohomish County, he's knocking on doors. Bill Brook in Skagit County, he's knocking on doors. They need the more volunteers you have to go knock on doors. They'll tell you, they'll give you an address, go knock on a door and see if they voted, right? The more people they get, the shorter amount of time it would require to go through the entire list of the doors they need to be knocked on. Snohomish County, it's something like 10,000 doors you have to knock on. You don't have to, but I mean, to get all the anomalies taken care of or answered. So there's an army needed to be able to go knock on doors. That's one thing. So reach out to Doug Ralston, Snohomish County Republican Party Chairman, Bill Brook, Skagit County Republican Chairman. Reach out to them and say, listen, I'd like to volunteer. I'd like to help.
Do you know of any other county chairs that are doing anything like this? Have you heard of it from anybody else?
I'm sure I have, but off the top of my head, I'm so swamped with information. I
can imagine.
Can't even remember. I was talking to a young lady from another county. I'm not sure if it's Yakima. I forget now, but they're knocking on doors too. And those are the ones I know of. If they're doing it in Spokane or, up in Wacom, I mean, I don't know. So I'm sure there's more. I just don't know how many. But we don't. Yeah. The thing is, we don't need to cover the entire state. We don't. That would take an army and a long time. We need to. We're doing one county again. Bill Brooks' group up there. They're doing Skagit. If they demonstrate that there are, I don't know what you want to call it. That's fraud, I guess, right? When someone says I didn't vote, but their ballot was turned in under their name, that's fraud,
right?
So that's a phantom voter, a ghost voter is what they call it, I think.
Yeah, fraud is a felony, by the way.
These are crimes being committed, and the argument that they used to make, well, okay, there's going to be a few examples of that. The system's not perfect, but they're not changing the results of any election. They're finding enough to where it could potentially change the results of the election.
Yeah.
So I don't care if it's one county or one district out of, the 39 counties of Washington. It doesn't matter. We don't need to do them all. We just showed you that it's happening here. And the same data with all the anomalies is throughout the entire state. So if we show it in one district or one county, that should be sufficient enough for us to be able to call for a forensic audit. That's evidence of a crime. Let us do the investigation. Let us determine what happened there. We can take it from there. Just like they're doing in Arizona. They're doing Maricopa County. They're not doing the entire state, Maricopa County. They chose, that's a big county. That would be like us doing King County. I think if we concentrate on a smaller county, we can get the job done quicker with less resources. And let's see if it's going on in a small district. What makes you think it's not going on in a smaller or a larger district or a county? Right. So it's the same anomalies that are occurring throughout, and we show one to be fraudulent. That's golden. That's golden. That shows. I'll call it a crime. That shows a crime.
Right. And then then we go from there, right?
And now we look at the results and we take it from there. I don't know the end story of this.
Right.
Do we start, in our system of law here in the United States for all time, you go to court. If it's discovered there was a fraudulent, business deal, let's say, the judge will have things go back to the point before the crime was committed, before the fraud, make people whole again. Right. Mm-hmm. So we're in uncharted territory in what we're doing, but if fraud is demonstrated and proven, the logical thing to do would be to have the parties make, what's the legal term? Made whole again, I think, would be to have the parties made whole. What if the fraud didn't occur? What would have been the result, right? And in some cases, if that means that they would have won the election, it's only fitting that they be put into office and the other one be removed because of the fraud. That's just fair. And I don't know anyone that would argue.
Right. And then some people, if they can find out who committed the fraud, put them in prison where they belong.
If it can be demonstrated who submitted that fraudulent ballot, again, forensic, maybe I'll call you, see if you can do some fingerprinting or something. That's a whole other, I guess you turn it over to law enforcement at that point saying, this is a crime, and here's our evidence that we gathered, here's our documentation, and you hand it off to law enforcement, I guess. Yeah. And if they can, do their own investigation and determine who was behind the fraud, then they can prosecute, those individuals. Now, whether that's the small one, the guy over here with he put in 2 ballots, that's the low level, but it's still a felony, but it's not a massive scheme. Or if it's that guy, or you hear stories of this one lady, forget her name, but they were harvesting ballots, and they were 1,600 ballots, and they're filling them out, and they're, that's now a scheme, right? Mm-hmm. Where you've got one or maybe a half a dozen people really doing it full time almost, all the way up to, are there any state actors? Are there any national, international actors involved? It could go all the way up, and we have no idea. I'm not making any accusations. I'm not saying that our government's fraudulent. Anyone in our government has any knowledge of any wrongdoing. I'm not saying that because I don't have any proof of that. But we do have evidence of what appears to be a crime. Do you mind if we investigate?
Yeah, and like I said before, who wouldn't want to look into that, right? Usually in police work, the people that didn't want something investigated, didn't want things looked into, they were usually either complicit or the actual one doing the crime. So if there's nothing to hide, then an audit is a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody anyway. But
the government, our state of Washington requires businesses to perform audit, depending on the type of business. But like gambling, casinos, to do audits on the machines routinely, right? To safeguard the public. Mm-hmm. Now, if they're so interested in safeguarding us regarding our money, which is, it's important, but it's not nearly as important as our government, who gets elected or not. Why? And in this case, the government's the one kind of handling, our county governments and our state government. They're the ones handling the elections and the ballots and the counting machines and all that. We, the people, want to do an audit. We have evidence of a potential crime. We want to take a look. The federal laws say that you have to keep the ballots so that we can look at them one day if we have a question. Mm-hmm. We have questions. We have evidence, and it's mounting daily. Why on earth anyone in our state government or our county government would say, well, no, not going to happen. We're not going to allow that. We hear the excuse, well, we don't want the ballots to be compromised. We don't want them to be touched and handled. That's why we keep them for 22 months,
Right.
so they can be touched and handled, so we can take a look at them if something goes wrong. So that's just a bogus excuse, if you will. We, the
Yeah.
people, want to take a look at the ballots and the envelopes and the voting machines, if you don't mind. If you have nothing to hide, do you mind? Really? Let us show
Yeah.
how great of a job you're doing. Let us prove that to the people, that there's nothing wrong with your election system. Give us a shot. Give us a chance at that.
Yep.
If there's nothing to hide, why on earth? If you're not
Yeah,
afraid
and
of the results, why
for-
are you thwarting the efforts?
Politicians running around and saying these are the most secure elections ever. You know, well, let's see, right? That's what an audit proves, one way or the other.
If they're so
So-
confident in that, which I hope they are, I hope to God
Yeah.
they are. I want to believe in our system. If they're so confident in that, hire an independent third-party forensic audit team, bring them in and let them take a look. Let them prove you right. Why are you
Yep.
hiding it? Say, you know, it's like, you know, you're in a store and the manager comes up and says, I think you just stole a watch. And you're like, well, no, I didn't. No, I think you did. I'm calling the police. Well, listen, I'll empty my pockets. I'll show you I don't have a watch on me, right? You would want to prove your innocence right then
Right.
and there before you go through the hassle of possibly being arrested. Why aren't they willing to just show us the results to prove them right? It's mind-boggling.
All right, Robert. So we're getting up there in time right now. If someone's watching this and they have evidence that they want to get out to someone, what would you suggest they do?
Oh, good question. My email is info@sutherlandforrep.com, and that's number 4. So my last name, the number 4, and then REP for representative.com.
Can you give me that one more time slowly, and I'll type it across the screen if I can.
info@sutherlandforrep.com.
The number 4.
The number 4, yes. There is a website, even better than just sending an email. There's a website at Audit WA. So you know, it has the at and then Audit WA, WA. You go on that site. You actually you fill out an affidavit. Tell us your story. Just go there, fill out your affidavit. Let us, you know, and then the webmaster, he gets that. And he's been sending me copies of them so we can get your story.
Is that .com or .org?
.org, yeah.
Auditwa.org.
Auditwa.org.
There we go, right there.
That's it. And these are all new websites and things. I sure hope I'm getting the names all right off the top. I should have wrote them down, I guess, but I've been just going 100 miles an hour.
Oh, I can imagine. Robert, you are a true American hero, sir, and my hat's off to you.
Back at you, Lauren. You are as well to me, and millions of others. So let's continue on and keep fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert. We will be talking soon, hopefully.
Our paths will cross again. I look forward to it. Take care, Lauren.
Yes, sir. God bless.
You too.
All right, you guys. There you have it. Robert Sutherland, Representative Robert Sutherland. You can follow him on Facebook. And what I would suggest that everyone watching this does, and encourage your friends to contact your representative. Call them on the phone. Look them up. Search for them on the internet. Your representative, your state representative, your state senator, contact them either by phone or email. It's easy to look up. Just do a search for Washington State representatives or Washington State senators. Get their email, get their phone number, call them and email them and tell them that you want them to support what Representative Sutherland and the others are doing. That you want them to support what he is doing, looking into the elections. Because we, the people, are the boss of the elected public servants, right? They are public servants. They work for us. So call your employee and tell them, I want you to support what Representative Robert Sutherland is doing. and encourage your family and your friends. We need to flood their inbox. We need to flood their email. We need to flood their voicemail and let them know that their employer wants them to do that. I would also recommend contacting anyone else you know, maybe the Republican Party in your county, the state Republican Party. Let them hear from we the people, because we are in charge. We run things, and that's what we want. We want to know that our elections are secure. We want to know that our vote counted. That's my advice for right now. So I'm going to end this, and I'm going to throw up a video for you guys to watch as we go off into the rest of our evening. I want to thank you guys for being on here. I really appreciate it. Please hit the share button. Share this with all your friends and family. We get stepped on sometimes by certain platforms, but with your help, we'll get this message out. It's very, very important. Let me see here. All right, I'm going to start this video, you guys. God bless and good night.
I'm Lauren Culp, and I approve this message.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining but never doing anything about it.
We need to remember that we are all American citizens and we stand for something that's recognized all around this world. We need to get back to that.